Well, for once, this was a pleasant surprise. Now, before I get started, uh, I had a little change. I was originally planning to see The Hangover 3 this weekend, and I might still do if somebody else is going to see it, but I started hearing some bad things about it. I was like, do I want to go to see Hangover 3? And then I started looking what else was out this week, and I was thinking, do I also want to see Fast and Furious 6? Because ever since the first one, I've not been a fan. Like, the first one actually had real cars. Now they don't even they CGI the goddamn cars. And then I was thinking maybe Epic, and then I saw this one pop up. I had heard it. I think I saw a trailer for it kind of way back, and I was just kind of looking at it. The trailer looked interesting enough. I was familiar with Richard Kolkinski, yeah, being from Jersey. Yeah. There is always a lot of mob stories going on. People like to tell that stuff about this state, so everyone's heard of this guy, the Iceman, as he was known. Probably best known from that HBO documentary he did a few years ago, where people just realized, holy shit, this guy is this is the real deal. I'll get into his backstory in a bit in a second, but yeah, I just kind of went, you know what? I just saw that this actually looks like a good movie, so I went to go see it, and by God, this is a fantastic film. Seriously, I know everything else out there this week is getting a lot of press, push, all that stuff. Fight that, because you're to stop seeing the recycled crap. See this movie. If you want to see a bunch of good actors giving really good performances, check out this film. I cannot recommend it enough. You've got freaking Michael Shannon as Richard Kolkinski, who's probably the most notorious mafia hitman. He's not even himself sure of his own body count, but everyone puts that at about 100 up to 210 people he killed. Not all of them even for mafia hits. He's just they kind of basically, if you've known any of the history of this guy, is basically that he was going to probably be a serial killer anyway. And the mafia came across him and picked him up and started using him. Then he just killed and killed and killed, yet had a family life. And a lot of people he was one of those killers that they go, oh, why, I never pictured him. However, Michael Shannon's performance in this is, one, fantastic, because he gets just that right element of a terrifying sociopath, which is hard to pull off, because you don't want foaming at the mouth insanity, which is what most actors go for. What he's going for is that complete lack of emotion, that he really doesn't have any empathy, or that he's really, if there is any emotion, it's pure anger, but it's always bottled up. It never really fully gets to the surface, even when he seems, to burst. And that's really hard to pull off, because you can easily do that and look like you're just like walking through a performance. It's such a difficult task of acting like you don't give a fuck, which is what Shannon's got to do in this role, and still be intimidating, and still give something interesting, and he pulls that off here. It's fascinating to see. There's also a ton of other great actors in here. Plenty of people you're gonna see if you go popping up, and you'll recognize, including Chris Evans, you will not recognize Chris Evans in this, because he really got into his role. He's playing another hitman in this movie who operates out of an ice cream truck. And I had to double check this one online, and apparently this is based actually on another mafia hitman. That this part is one of those where it is, yes, part of real life, including using the cyanide sprays that they start getting, where they literally just go up and spray you in the face with cyanide and you'll keel over and die. But Chris Evans in this film is completely like hippied out, kind of very into their role. Everyone really fits their period piece. If you want to see a good period piece for 70s and 80s, check this out. This is really, really authentic. Even like from the little bits that I can remember from my own childhood, which really is like we're talking. If I'm thinking like kindergarten, that's probably most as far back as most people can remember. With this, the vehicles and the looks of how everything was back then. That was like probably for me 91, 90. It comes across really authentic. Being from Jersey, it feels like it's Jersey, although it apparently was filmed out in Louisiana and Detroit. Go figure. But it does feel like it feels enough like Jersey, and it looks like they did at least some location shooting in parts of Jersey just to get like establishing shots. But it's an authentic looking film, down to this even our good old state trooper uniforms from the time, which basically look like they were Gestapo uniforms, and they still kind of do when they're at like ceremonies. Gotta love that about our state. But everything feels authentic with this. Guys like Chris Evans doing his kind of crazy performance along with Shannon's performance. You got Ray Liotta in there playing a Roy DeMeo, which is another infamous mobster from, I believe he was part of Murder Inc. I'll get into Liotta in a little bit, but of course, Liotta's playing Liotta. Yeah, he's good. He's in like Goodfellas mode. He's enjoying himself. Who else we have in this? Winona Ryder was in here, and that was a person I was kind of surprised with, but I didn't have any issues with it. I actually really liked her performance because she didn't modernize her role. And some people will probably complain about this. About how does she not know anything? Get involved. How do you not know your husband's finances or any of this type of stuff? And you've got to understand that's really all that type of stuff is. Let's go back one generation. Women did not know too much about what their husbands did at work. It was all very vague. They were kind of. Many men they came home and it was I don't want to talk about work. Are they? Even if they were doing legit business, oftentimes they would do that, and that's why if you look back at a lot of old movies, it was always that case of the wife kind of being oblivious to any financial difficulties the husband was in, because that was a common thing that happened. And she kind of pulls that off a bit. She kind of tries a Jersey accent, which is not needed. Do you hear a Jersey accent with me? No. I was born and raised in this state. This state of madness. It's not needed for New Jersey. So you Winona, turn it down. You don't have to do a Jersey accent. But I did like her performances. She pulled in an authentic feeling performance for the woman that she was, the era she was playing in, and the type of woman she was playing. So if there's complaints about that character, that's how these things were, and this is why it's a good period piece. You got to understand that when a piece of film like this one is so striving to get that era, explain this world, or explain our past really, and maybe explain how this is the crazy circumstances of that time period led to this type of person. You got to do that stuff historically, and they kind of pulled this off. It's gonna go. You see, really a great supporting cast in there. You got James Franco, has a little role in there. Stephen Dorff, the bad guy from Blade. That's the only thing he's ever remembered for. David Schwimmer from Friends. Robert Davi, who is there's that old classic there. Robert Davi is if you see him, you'll recognize him. He was basically the bad mobster-looking guy in most '80s films, or the Latin mobster guy. You go back. He was also the FBI agent in Die Hard. You see him, you immediately recognize him. Let's see. There was others. I think there was others. Somebody else. I'm forgetting. Mention Leota. Not that guy. Hector Han, maybe. Eh. I'm sure it'll come to me later, and I'll be like, oh, I don't believe I forgot to mention him. Uh, Getting back to Michael Shannon, I forget how tall Michael Shannon is in real life, but he does kind of really pull off the look, and I actually you do feel the age as time goes by in this movie, where you see him at various stages, and he kind of slowly starts over the years growing in this goatee. In the '70s, he's really rocking the sideburns. So he does a very good job of also progressing this character in age and being intimidating as hell. At several points in this film, they actually like people like kind of mess with him and like go "fuck you, man," or kind of stuff like that to this guy, and you're kind of wondering like, dude, look at this guy. He is. If anyone would ever be a mafia hitman, which this guy is, that would be it. Don't do that shit to him. This is the type of guy I would don't mess with. He looks like he's at any moment going to kill someone. He is not the person to call somebody's wife a whore, because odds are you're going to die. So that intimidation factor, which is only making me more excited for Man of Steel, because now it's I can buy that Superman's gonna die, because the Iceman's coming for him. Uh, the director behind this, an Ariel Vrooman, male, by the way. A lot of you probably heard the name Ariel and probably thinking female. He's Israeli. Really hasn't had anything big. This is probably his biggest film to date. He's making me impressed. I'm enjoying the. He did a good job here, and I'll be keeping an eye out for this one. Although I will say this, I mean the film does come in under 2 hours, which is kind of nice for nowadays. But at the same time, I'm not sure if they cut something out or if this was cut out during the script or if they just never did this, but it does feel like we're missing part of the beginning of the movie. Really, he does come across his brother later on, played by, where is his brothers? Oh, yeah, Stephen Dorff's character, his brother, and they have a scene where they kind of talk about this stuff. You get, and then afterwards you get a couple like real quick flashbacks of like his apparently being really abused as a child. And the movie feels like we were supposed to get more of that. That we were really supposed to get more of an establishment of how this guy formed up, maybe a little bit more about his brother, so that when they had their meeting later on, we would just realize that he's really been messed up, because they do make a point of, even before he gets involved with the mob as a hitman, they do show him killing someone for like just making a couple of remarks in a bar. He waits for the guy to go back outside, then he goes into his car and slits the guy's throat. So it's not like they're saying the mob turned this guy into a killer already. They're trying to show that he was already a killer. So it does feel like it's missing something. I don't know. I don't know if that was cut out, if they just never included it, and it's just a scene that doesn't feel complete, or if they had something at some point and they cut it out. Another thing, though, speaking of stuff that is not in there and maybe should be, the ending with they make no mention of what happened to Roy DeMeo, and this is where we get into kind of the history, where Roy DeMeo was kind of hard to say what he was. He kind of had gone a little bit rogue and running his own little independent operation, which probably is what really did him in the end. And he's an actual historical character. He cleared. There's plenty of connections that he worked for Kulkinski. Uh, Yet they don't make any mention. Like they're making it like he's gone paranoid and was trying to kill Kulkinski's family, which for the most part sells it. I'm fine with thinking that. And really, this real life character of DeMeo, he was that paranoid. He would start doing that stuff. That's kind of what did him in. And they make no mention of what happened to him. In real life, he was found murdered. Big surprise. But there is a lot of debate about how he was actually killed. No one was actually convicted for his murder. There's a couple of theories. There's one that has an official police, conclusion, and that's why I was kind of getting interested, because I was gonna, there's enough leeway that this film could have gotten away with saying that Kulkinski killed him. But they didn't go there, and they don't make any mention of what happened to him. And I feel kind of cheated by that. That's one of those things where maybe before getting into the rest of the stuff, when they had like the little text come up at the end, and they talked about Kulkinski sentenced to life in prison, died in 2006, which I forgot happened to him. Under mysterious circumstances. They do kind of overemphasize that because obviously they say a lot of people think he was killed because he was going to testify. They did a pretty good job on doing the autopsy on him, and they couldn't find anything. And the guy was 70 at the time. But they make no mention that the DeMeo character, who just kind of then fades out of the story, even though he was building to Kulkinski trying to assassinate him. They make no mention of him at the end. You kind of figured they would at least put a little blur saying, Roy DeMeo was found, shot dead on, I forget what it was, January 1982. The funny thing is, I've got the Wikipedia page, or I had a Wikipedia page up here. I think the DeMeo died before Kulkinski even was arrested, so they really could have gone with that. But I guess they wanted to show that it was building up to something, or building up to his murder, and then trying to surprise you. Which it's a tough one if you're somewhat familiar with the entire, with the case, with this part of mob lore. Then there really aren't too many surprises they can pull on you. There's plenty of great scenes. Really, there's the best scenes are with Shannon and Chris Evans, who are playing extremely well against one another, where they're very much opposites, but they're opposites that you can see getting along with one another. They have very different standards, but they're gonna just work with each other because it works well. They both kind of realize this. They're two very different hitmen. Especially when you've got a freaking Chris Evans selling ice cream out of an ice cream truck that has in the ice box there's like a dead 17-year-old girl, and he's like selling the kids candy from this shit. I like how they're having this like their casual conversations as they're hacksawing up bodies. It's crazy stuff. Definitely check this out. I can't emphasize it enough. Surprisingly, no new major trailers. I was kind of hoping for that, since this was a less well-known film. There's certainly fewer trailers. It was like maybe only like 3 or 4 before this one, so that was a relief. I got really shocked when it was starting to play. So if this is coming to a theater near you, definitely check it out. I hope Brad Jones needs to check this out. I just checked on his website and he didn't see it on for his weekly review set. I can imagine him liking this one, just because it's very 80s, an authentic 80s too. Anyone else that's like that? If you like kind of 80s stuff, you'll like this film. I like it. Next week, let's see what we got coming up next week. 31st. After Earth. Yeah. I actually want to check this out just to see, just to compare it to Oblivion. I want to check that out. I might still catch Fast and the Furious Epic or Hangover 3 this weekend. I'll see how busy I am. If I'm not too busy, I might go out. Or if a group of friends are going to see one of those, I might join them. Although I'll probably try talking them into seeing the Iceman. Blah. But next week we got that, followed by, let's see what's coming up. June 7th, internship. Oh, The Purge. I want to see that just because everyone's been already like pre-trashing that movie. I want to see if they kind of invert what people are complaining about that movie. They kind of like that. Oh, that's so stupid. It would never work in real. That would never work. I kind of want to see if they were smart enough to know that and like pointed out that this is not a real solution. That it doesn't really solve anything or something along those lines. This is I might check out This Is the End, which comes out on the 12th. Then, of course, another Michael Shannon film. You got Man of Steel on the 14th, followed by World War Z on the 21st, and we're going to end the month with White House Down. Yeah, because I'm not going to bother seeing The Heat. So that's our month of June, and the end of May coming up. I might do an Xbox One video at some point as well. Stupid ass name. But that's it for right now, guys. Signing off. Check out the Iceman.